All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on the invisible strings that tug at our decisions every single day. We're going to dive deep into the psychology of persuasion and, more importantly, figure out how to build a defense against all those clever tactics designed to make us say yes.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever agreed to something, a purchase, a favor, some big commitment, and then almost immediately you get that sinking feeling in your stomach? Well, you are definitely not alone. That feeling, that little moment of regret, that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now.
You see, our brain is, it's an efficiency machine. It has to be, right? To handle the thousands of decisions we make, it creates these little mental shortcuts. The psychologist Robert Cialdini calls them click, whir responses. It's basically our mental autopilot. And usually, it works great. But here's the catch. These shortcuts have a vulnerability. They can be triggered by other people, turning our own helpful mental shortcuts into what Cialdini famously called weapons of influence. Okay, so let's dig into this mental autopilot. The real danger here is that our responses can be so automatic, so mechanical, that folks who understand these triggers, marketers, salespeople, you name it, can intentionally hit that play button to get the one answer they're looking for, a yes.
Now, what's so fascinating is that pretty much all of these persuasion tactics, and there are thousands of them, they can all be boiled down to just 6 fundamental psychological principles. You can think of these as the source code for how influence works. We're talking about reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, authority, liking and scarcity. Let's break down how they operate and, crucially, how you can spot them a mile away.
We're going to kick things off with 2 of the most powerful and, let's be honest, most common tactics you probably run into every single day. They prey on 2 of our deepest human instincts, our need to fit in with the crowd and our intense fear of missing out. Okay, first up is social proof. This is the classic, if everyone else is doing it principle. We are just hardwired to follow the crowd, especially when we're feeling a little uncertain. Think about how this pops up in marketing, right? When an ad tells you a product is the fastest growing or largest selling, they're not just giving you information. They're hitting you with social proof, a powerful signal that, hey, maybe you should get on board too.
And then we have the scarcity principle. Whether it's the last slice of pizza or some limited edition sneakers, we just automatically see things as more valuable when they're hard to get. And why is that? It's not just about wanting the thing itself, it's that we hate the idea of losing the freedom to have it. That possibility of loss, wow, it is an incredibly powerful motivator.
And this isn't just some vague idea. It's a well-documented cognitive bias called loss aversion. The pain of losing $100 feels way more intense than the joy of finding $100. And you can bet that anyone trying to get you to say yes knows this and uses it to their full advantage.
So what does this look like out in the real world? Oh, you've seen them all. Only 2 left in stock. Yep, that's the limited number tactic. Sale ends Friday. That's the deadline tactic. Or my favorite, the high-pressure sales pitch. This price is only good if you buy it right now. All of them are designed to do one thing: short-circuit your rational brain by creating a totally manufactured sense of urgency.
So how in the world do you defend against this? Well, the first step is to recognize that feeling, that rush of panic or excitement, as a big red flag. That's your signal to hit the pause button on that mental autopilot. Then just ask yourself one simple question. Do I want this thing because of what it does, to drive it, or wear it, or use it? Or do I just want it because it's rare? Because trust me, scarce cookies do not taste any better.
All right, let's move on to the next couple of principles. Now, these tactics don't really rely on creating panic. Instead, they bank on trust, specifically our built-in tendency to listen to experts and to agree with people we think are friendly. Think about it. From our parents and teachers to doctors and bosses, we learn from a super young age that following authority is usually a smart move. And this creates another one of those mental shortcuts. If an expert says so, it's probably true. The problem is this deference can be so automatic that we end up being swayed by the mere symbols of authority, even when there's no real substance behind them.
And that's because our brain, in its quest for efficiency, doesn't always stop to check someone's credentials. A lot of the time, it just reacts to the visual cues, the shortcuts that scream authority. And as you can probably guess, those symbols are incredibly easy to fake.
The source material really highlights 3 big symbols to watch out for:
First, you've got titles. We just react differently to a doctor or a professor than we do to a mister. Second, clothes. Think about the instant credibility we give someone in a uniform or a really sharp business suit. And finally, trappings. Things like a luxury car or a fancy watch. They can create this whole aura of success and expertise, whether it's actually earned or not.
The liking principle is just, well, it's beautifully simple. We are much more likely to say yes to people that we actually like. It's why companies hire attractive spokespeople. It's why a salesperson will try to find some common ground with you. Oh, no way, you're from Ohio too? And it's why those old Tupperware parties were so genius. It is so much harder to turn down a friend. Okay, so the defense here just requires you to take a quick, critical pause. When you're dealing with authority, ask yourself, wait a minute, is this person a genuine expert in this specific area? And just as important, what are their incentives here? And for the liking principle, the real trick is to mentally separate the requester from the request. It's totally fine to like the person, but then you have to shift your focus and look only at the merits of the deal itself.
All right, on to our final 2 principles. And these are some of the most deeply ingrained tactics in all of human culture. They play on our powerful sense of obligation and our deep, deep desire to seem consistent with our past actions.
The rule of reciprocity. Man, it is a cornerstone of society, right? If someone does you a favor, you feel this powerful obligation to return it. This is exactly why free samples are so darn effective. The moment you accept that little cube of cheese at the supermarket, you've taken on a tiny social debt, which makes it much, much harder to just walk away without buying something. We all have this deep need to be consistent and also to appear consistent to others. Once we make a tiny commitment, like, say, signing a petition, we are suddenly way more likely to agree to a much bigger, related request later on, like donating money. It's the classic foot-in-the-door technique. It works because it locks us into a certain path. We just really hate to contradict ourselves.
So, how do you escape these traps of obligation? For reciprocity, it's all about mentally reframing that initial gift. You have to see it for what it really is, not a genuine favor, but a sales tactic. That simple shift frees you from the obligation. And for consistency, you have to trust your gut. If you get that queasy, stomach-churning feeling like you're being backed into a corner, listen to it. Give yourself permission to say, you know what, I've changed my mind. A foolish consistency is not a virtue.
So, we've now decoded the 6 primary weapons of influence. But the big question is there one single ultimate shield that can protect you from all of them?
After everything we've talked about, scarcity, authority, social proof, all of it, is there one overarching strategy, one thing we can use to protect ourselves and our decisions?
The answer is incredibly simple, but it is so powerful. It's awareness. Just knowing that these principles exist and knowing how they're used is your single greatest defense. The second you can spot a tactic being used against you, the moment you can think to yourself, okay, that's a scarcity play, or I see, they're using the liking principle on me, you break the spell. The automatic click-where response just fizzles out and your rational brain gets back in the driver's seat.
And we'll end on this thought. These mental shortcuts we've been talking about, they aren't some kind of luxury. They are an absolute necessity for getting through our crazy, complex world. But because they're so essential, we have to fiercely protect them from being exploited. By being aware, by fighting back against their misuse, we don't just protect ourselves, we help keep these valuable tools working for everyone. The stakes, as Cialdini says, have just gotten too high to do anything less.